Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's Andrew and this is I Know Nothing. First off, I'd like to thank everyone that liked and commented on my first video, as well as subscribed to my brand new channel. That means more to me than you guys know, and I love getting the community feedback and support. It really motivates me to keep going with the project, so thank you. I wanted to pick out my favorite comment from the first video, so I have a comment here from Fallen2911. Fallen wrote, "This is going to be great. I've built 3 of these cars and each version was a fun drive. Keep going, brother. Stick with that attitude and you will get there." So thank you very much, Fallen. That really motivates me to keep going. Second, I have a microphone now, so I don't need to feel like I'm yelling at the camera anymore. And you can hear me clearly whether I'm here, or even here. Which brings us to this video. Episode 2 is going to be all about fixing the main damage on the car, which is the driver front suspension area. That's where it was hit. We're going to jack the car up, get the wheel off. Like I said from the first video, I haven't looked at any of the damage behind the wheel yet, so you're going to see it the first time with me. Once we take a look under there, we're going to see what's damaged, get those damaged pieces out, and get them replaced. Let's get to it. Alright everyone, I have to actually apologize because from the time I was filming at the table to right now has almost been 3 weeks, and the reason for that was after I got done filming at the table, I came here, I jacked the car up, I got the wheel off to take a look at the damage finally, and I found out that the subframe is bent, and that's what's causing this wheel to be pushed so far back. So I had to purchase a new subframe, and I didn't really want to do the whole subframe repair just with the simple jack or 2 that I have. So I moved up the timeline on when I was going to get a quick jack. So now I have a quick jack system to lift the whole car up nice and safe. So now we're finally ready almost 3 weeks later. Let's go ahead and get these lug nuts loosened, get the wheel off, and we can get started. Alright everyone, here's our first look behind the wheel. Off the bat, the rotor obviously needs to be replaced. She's a little rusty. The front struts will also be swapped out with some racing struts in the future, so I'm not worried about that. Down here, here's where we see our subframe, control arm. I'm pretty happy that I got a new subframe because as we can see it's starting to rust. The control arm is definitely starting to rust. Ball joints, tie rod ends are looking like they need to be replaced. This subframe is supposed to have this flare out right here, but that one is way too far pushed back. To further illustrate that, if we go around to the front, we can see that this is supposed to line up with this. That shows you how far off that subframe is bent. Granted, this is the front, so it's less bent back there, but You know, this doesn't move at all. She's bent. And car came from Chicago, so they got plenty of winter over there and started to build up some rust. So if we want to make this a nice, clean show car, we're going to need to replace that. That needs to be replaced. But all in all, not terrible under here. Little leak from oil. Motor's going to be replaced. Not a big deal. Start tearing this apart. Alright, well, as you can see, I went from taking the wheel off to the subframe is already out of the car. My buddy came over and we started working on the car together, so I just stopped filming so I could hang out with him. We got both the ball joints out, I mean all of them, and then he went home, and the next day I finished up taking everything else off the subframe and dropped it out. Let's see, this one over here, that one did not want to come out of the knuckle at all. That one took some work. If I stand above it, you can see how this one is straight and that one is obviously bent off that way. So there's where our damage came into play. It's got some rust, not too bad. Normally I would replace these sway bar bushings and probably the sway bar, but we just need to get the new subframe in with everything on it to pass inspection so we can get a rebuilt title. And then after we do that, the new subframe that I bought is getting taken right back out of the car. We're going to put a Corvette front subframe in. So I'll show you some stuff under the car here. Alright, so first things first, this steering rack is got some gunk on it. She's definitely aged. Normally I would also replace the steering rack, but like I said, we're doing a whole front subframe from a Corvette under here, so we just need to pass inspection. I would have definitely replaced that power steering line if I can get it to focus. There it goes. Obviously that fitting is leaking, but inspection's not going to see that, especially with the subframe back in. So like I said, we're just going to clean that up and leave that because all the motor and everything is getting taken out for Corvette stuff, so not too big of a deal. Other than that though, everything else here doesn't look too bad. I mean, the bottom of the motor has small drip somewhere. You know, the motor mount is a little aged, but again, we don't need that going forward. So all in all, not too bad. Now what I'm going to be working on is getting everything off of this that I can. I think it's just the sway bar bushings, the sway bar, these clips that hold in, you know, brake lines and power steering lines and stuff like that. I think that's it. Just those. I think there's 3 clips, and then taking the sway bar off and transferring over the bushings, and then I think we should be all set to get this guy into the car. So let's get started. Alright, here I am loosening up the sway bar bracket bolts. This one was a little difficult, so I had to add a little bit of WD-40 on it. Pretty sure that bolt was not the correct bolt that was supposed to be in there because it was different than the other one and did not want to come out like the other one did. The threads were correct, but it's a little bit more difficult. That one had been replaced at some point. I eventually got them both out, got the brackets off, cleaned it up a little bit, rotated the subframe over so I could then get at the link bolts. I just used a vice grip to hold on to the back side, and the vice grip was braced against the subframe itself, so I could then use a wrench and turn the other side. ended up falling off a few times, but got it to stay and got both of them out with some help of some more WD-40. To clamp it extra tight, rotate it over, get it loose. Alright, so both bolts out. I was able to get the sway bar off. Now I got the subframe out of the way so I could clean up the work area. It got pretty covered in rust and gunk, so didn't want to mule in that. Now I'm just adding some WD-40 to the brackets so I can try to get those three out. Got out some trim removal tools, and I ended up breaking two out of the three brackets, but they still worked. I only broke off half of it, so I got the other half to work in the new subframe here. The middle one did not want to go all the way through by where the steering rack goes in, so I had to actually drill that out a little bit, make the hole larger, and then I got it to work. Then I brought back the old subframe because I forgot that I had to take out the control arm bolts to get onto the new one. Right there, I was hammering the wrong side. I realized that nut was welded into the subframe, so I turned it over, and now I'm working on the correct side where I could take out the bolt. Since the subframe was not in the car, I had to do a bit of acrobatics to get it to sit still while I loosened up all the bolts and took them out. So you'll see me climbing all over this thing a little bit. Eventually I got them all out, so I moved it to vacuum real quick again, and then I got the new subframe back over and the new control arm, gonna get that in. Got one bolt lined up just fine. But the other one required a little bit of mallet work to get it to seat properly, so I stood it up so I had something to brace against. I just set the other side of the subframe on the floor. So with that other bolt finally in, I tightened both of them down. Got the torque wrench out and gonna get them torqued down as well. These ones required 180 degrees after a certain torque measurement, so that's what I'm doing here. Now for the other side, same process, get the first bolt in, then I can work with the mallet to get the second one lined up. This time I put it on a wheel chock, a bit higher of a working space and probably a little bit easier on the subframe itself. Tighten both the bolts down. Get the torque wrench back out and get them torqued properly. Now I'm installing the sway bar, starting with the end links. With that, I'm putting on the brackets as well, and a little bit of silicone spray so they slide on easier. Getting everything tightened down. Everything to torque spec. Now I'm going after the jam nut on the driver's side tie rod end. Getting that out of the way, and then I can mark where the tie rod end is on the threads with some white nail polish. Do the exact same thing to the passenger side. Now I am unscrewing the tie rod end from the inner tie rod, and I'm making sure to count how many rotations it takes to get it out, so I can remember when putting these new ones back in. And here I'm just putting on the grease fitting onto both the new ones. Now I'm screwing the new tie rod end on, counting how many threads and how many turns I'm going in. Get everything lined up with the knuckle. Get the jam nut back in place. I'm taking the passenger side tie rod end off, putting on the new one. Lining it up with the knuckle, put the castle nut on that one. Put the castle nut back on this one. Get the jam nut in place because I forgot to do that. Here I am getting the castle nut torqued down. Installing the pin. Now I'm going to get the new subframe with the new control arms and then the old sway bar onto some rollers so I can properly place it under the car. And then I got my jack out and I'm getting it lifted into the car, trying to get everything lined up. Here I'm getting the ball joints and castle nuts in to help stabilize and align everything. Alright everyone, well, I was getting the subframe lined up underneath, trying to get it bolted in, and it ended up falling off the jack, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pause the video, get this lined up and figured out, and then I can film. But that ended up taking hours and a lot of moving around, you know, pry bar here, loosen bolts and wiggle over there and whatnot. So as you can see, the subframe is in. Everything is bolted up, torqued down like it should. Looking good under here. A lot of the bolts ended up being pretty difficult to get lined up. Especially way back here. You can't really see it, but right up here, here's one. And then there's another over here. These steering rack bolts were a real pain to get in because the steering rack didn't want to sit all the way down in its channel. And I know I saw another video online of someone doing one of these steering rack, subframe attaching, and the bolt holes are notorious for not lining up very well, so that was a real pain, but we got it in. Everything's looking pretty good. Looks fresh down here for a short period of time until we go to inspection and get it to pass, and then it's all getting torn out again. But yeah, now the car sits on its own four wheels again. I just got to get all this crap cleaned up, figure out how I'm going to dispose of the old subframe and the old parts. But the new fender came in today, so we're going to be able to get that installed very soon. I ordered new indicator lights for both sides. The subframe was the hard part. Everything else is going to be pretty simple and straightforward to get ready for inspection. More to come in future videos. We're going to be repairing the last few things before we can take it to inspection, and doing a very basic alignment at home here in the garage just to get it good enough to drive down the road relatively straight. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around for kind of lengthy video, and see you in the next one.